story of Esther. And I want to show it this morning instead of preaching, okay? Now, I'm not a moviegoer, not against movies, I just don't go. And I'm kidding about showing you a movie of Esther. But if I were to be able to have you just sit here and have some corporation do a movie of Esther, what do you think it would be rated? Those of you that read it all. I don't think it's going to be for general audiences. I don't think it's going to be for parental guidance, right? It may be an R, but if they film it according to what we read this past week in chapter 20 of the story, it could be rated mature only, huh? Wow, the stuff that went on for that woman and for all the people in that chapter that you read in preparation for this day and what Don will lead you in Bible class. Think of it. You got Xerxes, who's this king over all of the provinces, right? He's got many, many wives. He's got his own harem, right? He has this gorgeous, attractive, by the Bible standards, nice to look at queen, okay? Vashti. He throws an enormous party that lasts for days. A biblical tailgate that is beyond comprehension, okay? A lot of drunkenness, a lot of whatever else goes on with the drunkenness. And after a lot of days, he wants to parade his queen before everybody because she's nice to look at. Women's Lib, way back, she says no, right? The queen tells the king, no, it's never happened before. All the guys think, hey, this is awful. If she does it, all our wives are going to do it too, right? And so they go and get all these wise people, wise guys sort of, to get them all together and say, what are we going to do? She didn't follow the edict of the king. And if she doesn't, we're in trouble. So he removes her from her queenship, kind of puts her out in her own little exile. But these guys, here's where the movie gets interesting, huh? You know what? Go to all the provinces, make it a decree, and grab as many beautiful young virgins as you want from all of these provinces and bring them here to be yours. Here's where Esther comes into the picture, huh? She was, to a curse, actually, gorgeous. By human standards, she was stunningly beautiful, this young girl, Hadassah. It's hard for me to say Hadassah Church. My son and his wife named one of my granddaughters after Queen Esther. I have a granddaughter, Hadassah, all right? So, if you didn't think that name was out there, I got a kid named Hadassah, in my family, which is cool. But you know what? Her beauty was almost like a curse, wasn't it? They came into this province as with not any parent could say, you can't. It's the king's edict. He took people's daughters from their home to claim as his own and bluntly to use in any way he saw fit. Mordecai, her cousin who raised her because her parents are gone, follows her, right? In her best interest. You see all of this thing happening. She is primed for the king for over a year. All these beautification things just for the king to be able to use her in whatever way he chooses to do. becomes queen. Queen Esther, a Jew married to King Xerxes, the head of all the provinces. Think of this movie aspect, mature rating, huh? You throw in Haman, who is trying to overthrow the king, right? You throw him into the mix, he's going to try to get him assassinated, knock him out of power. You got all this behind the scenes between Haman and Mordecai, Esther's cousin, who lets her know about what's going to happen. It's like this soap opera that's going on. There's deceit, there's lying, there's power struggles all over the place, and yet God had his purpose for that beautiful young woman. Even though the king was using her, God had a more powerful purpose through her to vindicate his people. You know, it goes quick. Haman's going to have Mordecai impaled on a 75-foot pole to set him as an example, dead on a big wooden spear. And he can be seen from all over the community with those 75-foot poles. That was his intent. Where does Haman end up? On top of the very pole that he had carved out for Mordecai. God uses his people. Mordecai is elevated to a position of power. Put royal garments on, a crown, gets the king's ring, that anything he desires to seal with it is that if the king has signed and sealed it himself. And there came payback, didn't there? Haman impaled on his own pole. And 2 days via Esther saying, "Free I want my people vindicated." And this is where it gets kind of really maturely X-rated kind of thing. The Jews, by that insignia, kill their enemies. Thousands. We don't understand that sometimes. Thousands of lives were taken. It said they didn't plunder what they owned, but they took their lives because they had the chance to. And there's the king's signature. And God used Esther in that way through the curse of being pretty and getting sent to the king as a virgin and made a queen. All of those things took place. And there was 2 days of slaughter. We have heard the phrase, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord." We may not know the rhyme or reason of this divine God working through history as he has always done. It's tough sometimes to read the Old Testament lessons of this because it seems like there is so much killing going on, all in the name of justice, that it's hard for us to sometimes understand. But you know what we do understand, you and I? Revenge. In our own lives, right? Revenge. Paybacks to people that we have been sinned against and things. You know, you confessed your sin in the privacy of your own heart briefly this morning. But you know what? Every single person is no different than me here in this church. There are those people who have been in my life, who may still be in my life, that are really, really hard to love. And sometimes you want to just pay back. I was reminded by my youngest son, Christopher, when our kids were little. We have 4 children. Those of you that don't know my family, we have 4 children, a girl, a boy, a girl, and a boy. Chris is the youngest. He and his brother Dan shared bunk beds. They were about 9 years apart or whatever, 6 years apart. When they were little, Chris had the top bunk. Dan had the lower bunk. Chris had a Sunday school teacher during the season of Lent that gave him a canister with 40 days of prayer request things in it. He was just little, maybe 4 years old, 5. And I came home from work one night from the church that I was serving, and my wife said, since you're home, it's your night to put the kids to bed. Do Chris first, he's the youngest. So I go in, Chris climbs up in his bunk. I take out the canister. I reach in, and he pulls out a slip of paper. It says brothers and sisters on it. And he said, what does this mean? I said, tonight, since you have brothers and sisters, you are to pray for Amy and for Daniel and for Rebecca. Oh. He folds his hands. This is when I knew he had a little bit of my sense of humor. He folded his hands in his bunk, and he closed his eyes. And I will never forget his prayer that night. Dear God, will you please have Amy and Daniel and Rebecca stop picking on me? And I'm holding his hands. I'm going, where's he going? And God, if they don't stop, will you help me pay them back? And he opened one eye and smiled. I thought, we laugh at that. Sometimes we want to pay back. One of the hardest things I had this week in going over the story of Esther and seeing again the destruction that came on both sides, right? On both sides. The Jews had been mistreated horribly by many of the provinces. And all of a sudden it swings the other way where God gives them the go-ahead and they slaughter thousands. I guess I ask myself the question, how do I know in my life, or how do you know in your life, when what you're doing is God's doing, is God's agenda for you? Or, on the other hand, because of sin, when is it our agenda, what I'm doing, and I bend and twist God's agenda to fit, to justify how I'm treating people? It's a tough kind of thing sometimes to know, I say it's God's agenda, but is it really? Doesn't sin get in the way and say, Weber, they treated you this way, treat them this way, right? God, help me pay them back, right? We justify our anger towards somebody. Using the very word of God, we twist it so that it helps our side. We justify it by saying there's got to be hatred because look what this person or people have done. There is sin that I've committed that I lessen because I'm not as bad as the other person. We twist it to fit our own life. We don't have to think about slaying people or anything like that. Is it my money that I have or God's? Is the home I live in my house? We're getting near the end of our payments to say I own it, or is it God's? My life. Do I truly get up every day and say, this is a day the Lord has made, that my life is His in this day? Or do I live sometimes simply saying, this life's mine and I'll do it any way I please? It's the dilemma, isn't it? It's the dilemma of saying, what is God's purpose? Not just for me or you, but through me or you. When does God take the curses of our lives and use them for His bidding, that others might see the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, not only for us, but for them. You see, God's dealing with me and with you. It comes down to the promise he gave to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden when they fell into sin. He said, I will provide the way out. I promise that there will be vindication for your sin. I promise there will be a way out. I promise there will come a time that you will see the salvation that I have for you. Where all sin is covered, where death has no power over, where hatred doesn't have even an inch of room in our lives or our homes. You know what? And in all of these things of the story that we've been doing, God uses individual people. He uses Esther, and he uses Daniel, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Do you know what? When it comes to my salvation and yours, God didn't send a slave. He didn't choose a servant who was already living. He didn't pick just some random person to say, you will be mine. He sent his own son. That son was hated on all sides. All sides. The Romans didn't care for him. Herod tried to put him to death when he was born. The Jews couldn't stand him because he kind of upset their apple cart of their religion, right? There was no side that was in favor of Jesus Christ. And yet he did not turn his back on the purpose that he came to do to save. Mordecai got a royal robe, a crown on his head, a scepter with the king's seal to say whatever goes. The reason I chose the gospel lesson for this morning from the week of Passion is Jesus had a royal robe thrown on him, purple and mocked. They put a crown out of rubies on his head, but they pounded in a crown of thorns to make his suffering even more. They mocked him over and over and over again. They spit in his face. A lot of years ago, I had just finished Good Friday evening service. At that time, I still wore for church, more the traditional clerical collar, the black shirt, the white tab. I had the insignia of a cross on my forehead of ashes that was placed on me during the service at the communion rail. But I had to stop at the store on the way home. I got out of my car, and a car full of teenagers pulled up near me, and they said, "Hey, mister, come here." I walked over. "Closer, mister, closer." And with the cross of ash on my forehead, I leaned in close, and two of those kids spit in my face and drove off. And I was fried and angry. And I ran towards the car, hoping they couldn't get into traffic. And then I remembered the cross of ash on my head. And all that the Lord Jesus Christ endured for me. And anger kind of left. And my sin was before me. And the vengeance of God over my sinful condition was made right through the cross. There was a 75-foot wooden pole in the story this week. It was meant for Mordecai. It ended up being the pole in which Haman gave his life. The cross was meant for us. Not a physical death, but an eternal one. And yet Christ was willing, as the Son of God, to give it all for us. The prophet Isaiah reminds us today, when you look at your life, the anger, the hatred, the unfairness, the sin, Isaiah states about the one who is to come, but he was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement that brought our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. I've had to deal with a lot of anger this week. Spiritual anger. Our brothers and sisters in Christ who are few, at the place that I have been 3 times with Frontline Missions, Flower Mountain, the Tulipan tribe, Tomas, the old man who was the chief of the tribe, died about 7 months ago of natural causes. His son Jose has taken over the chief's role. They were the ones that the Holy Spirit rested upon. First time I was in that village and they heard the gospel of Jesus Christ proclaimed through the interpreter. And Tomas came to a living faith in Jesus Christ and said, we open our community to you to come back. There was a lot of weeping of joy that day. And in our trips back with medical missions and all of the other things that we were able to do in that village with those people, his son Jose became chief. You know that 2 years ago, our brother Luis, Pastor Luis from Sulaco, Honduras, came here as our guest. It's the only time he had left the country. We did what Upers do. We brought him to our church and then took him to a tech hockey game. He and Maley are in the Tulipan village as we speak today. It is a dangerous place to be. For Jose was murdered this past week because of his faith. And Luis's brother was murdered 2 years ago because of his faith. And to be honest with you, I've been angry, somewhat hateful over their demise. But Christ says to keep loving, to keep serving, to keep witnessing. Because there's only one thing that's going to change that village or any other village, whether it's Houghton or Hancock or all of the surrounding communities. It's to be led to the cross of Jesus Christ, to the Son of God, who took the vengeance of God because of me to Calvary, that I might live in the power of the resurrection. Pray that we can all let hate go. But like Esther, be used even when life seems to be a curse. Like Esther, to be used by God in the way that he deems fit to bring salvation.